Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Gooners podcast. So today we are going to talk about the 5-0 victory against Sheffield United. I mean, it's it's such a routine game that it doesn't feel very excited for me. But 5 goals any day is fun to watch. So we'll talk about that. And with me to talk about that today, we have Aaron with me. Hi, Aaron.
Hello, hello.
Before we start, as usual, please do like, share, subscribe, and comment in. Arun's not here to remind me of, pressing the bell icon, but he's here. He lives here rent-free, always. So please do press the bell icon. We are across 300, but hopefully we'll be moving towards, the next milestone, which is a 350. Please do share it with your friends and your fellow supporters. We also do a roundup for all other teams, so it's not like only Arsenal fans need to watch it or hear this. Yeah. So with that out of the way, we'll get the game started. I mean, 5-0 any day is a great win. Especially like since we have been complaining about Arsenal, at least I've been complaining about Arsenal not scoring enough goals. And playing a sort of a second lineup, not the first lineup that we would put up. 5-0. What are your thoughts?
Final against Sheffield is not an easy feat. Apart from Newcastle, who scored 8 goals, they've always managed a 2 goal, at least at the very least, a 2 goal difference, considering the fact that Sheffield do not have a striker and are very weak in the back line. Man City barely won 2-1. They had 30 shots on target, 30 shots on goal and 9 shots on target. So barely maybe stretching that a little bit. With the Spurs team that is currently unbeaten sitting on the top of the table, they had to find additional time to come back and win against Sheffield. Man United, they had a very attacking second half against Sheffield, but they had to dig in really deep to get that.
It's Man United.
Yeah, second goal. True. The point I'm trying to make is it's all about it's all about how you play in the moment, right? And even for us, we had 8 shots on target and we had 5 goals. So you can chalk this up to one of those exceptionally amazing conversion rates that we have not been accustomed to seeing in the last 2 or 3 years.
Or
We are typically used to being on the other side of that argument, creating so many chances and not scoring enough goals. But for me personally, I think the guy who I've been backing a lot came good. All those sell Eddie for Ivan Toney rumors will probably quiet out for 2 more weeks until Eddie probably has no goals in the next 2 games, and then suddenly we'll start to hear those rumblings again. But other than that, I think it was kind of wholesome to see, right? You change the lineup. We had a lot of new faces in the 11. I can't remember the last time we made 5 changes. Was it 4 changes to the starting lineup, and we still did not miss a beat. Well, 5 if you consider Bukayo Saka as well. No, Saka played the last game. He didn't play. Okay, 4 changes. Which is my point being the fluidity, the Arsenal, the cohesion, that was not lost, even though there were considerable changes across the board. And to see the likes of Elneny come off the bench, get an assist, you love to see that. He's been a wonderful player for the club, a wonderful ambassador, and finishing 5-0 with an Elneny assist tops everything.
Did you see that Elneny has started a club called Elneny FC?
Yes, I did. And over the
he
weekend,
is living every FIFA fans dream, starting your
Yes.
own FC at the bottom of the, at bottom of every league, and then climbing all the way up.
And who knows, he had some really good scouts for his club over the weekend or the midweek, I should say. And maybe LNEFC could be a feeder club to Arsenal, or at the very least, folks like Cedric can go and find game time there.
I don't care about Cedric's game time as long as, as far as I'm concerned. But getting back to the changes and the players got in, right? Like
Hmm.
this felt more like a. I mean, there were talks about like where after the game we had a full training session on the pitch, is
Hmm.
what people were saying. But this game felt like Arteta was ready to make all the changes, all the experimentation that he wants. We saw even within the game that Saka and Martinelli kind of played in a lot of different positions.
Hmm.
Saka was in different position, Martinelli, and even Smith Rowe and Kai Havertz like kind of swap positions all the time, which doesn't
Right.
happen a lot. Like, I mean, truth be told, we know that Odegaard plays his position. He roams the pitch, but he plays his position
Hmm.
very firmly. So it was surprising to see Arteta do this because he doesn't even do that for useless cup games like Carabao Cup and stuff. He makes changes very cautiously. Is this new Arteta having more faith in more players in the squad, or is this like, okay, this game we can do this?
See, if you think about Arsenal over the last 4 years, the one thing that has always been a constant is the leveling up, almost the evolution of the Arsenal way of playing. We went from Socrates at right back to somebody like Ben White, who was a centre back, transformed into a right back, and then making a very good move out of that change. And we've always seen that evolution a lot over the years. Saka started as a left back and then moves on to right wing and starts to trailblaze. Martinelli, who was predominantly injured for the first season, comes in, starts to be isolated on the left wing, and then you can start to see the impact he has. We went from a double pivot, a back three to a back two, and a single six, and we that was the way we played. And you started to see the over reliance on Thomas Partey, and now we can cope up with the absence of Thomas Partey for a significant period of time. So the evolution of the Arsenal squad has kind of been the constant throughout all of this time. And the natural next step is swapping positions, wingers interchanging.
Barcelona during Pep Guardiola season.
Exactly. And that is the kind of things that teams can prepare for countering a player at a certain position. Like if you want to prepare your left back to make sure that Saka does not dribble past him, maybe you can try and figure out a game plan. But when you have to deal with the likes of Saka and Martinelli constantly, or Saka and Emil Smith, or Saka and Odegaard, or Saka and Havertz, Saka or Jesus. Like these are the kind of things that is going to throw a player off. Everybody is different. Everybody's style of play is different. Saka wants to either cut in. Martinelli wants to go out. So you have these kind of intrinsic styles that you have to keep in mind. And in a very high pressure situation like in game, that's hard to do. So
Mhm.
the progression, the only risk or the asterisk that would be there is you can change and interchange all you want, but players should not lose that fluidity, that the gameplay and unnecessary passes, wasteful passes. That would be the only argument against doing that. But when your players are drilled day in and day out and playing multiple positions, that's not going to be a commonality.
So that's where my thing is, right? Like, okay, for this game, let's start with Eddie and Ketia. But three goals, he could have had four if that penalty was like he wished to take
Hmm.
it, but it's fine. I mean, that discussion is something that we'll have later in this podcast. But like, I will give you this moment to shine to talk about Eddie because, like you said, you've been a vocal supporter of him, and surprisingly, one of the few players that Arteta backs to the hilt has been Eddie from the time he came to Arsenal. Like he has backed Eddie like without any without any kind of, I wouldn't say reason, rhyme or reason, but it's more like without any hesitance. Even in this summer when we had to choose between Eddie and Balogun, there was no hesitation in choosing Eddie to stay and letting go of Balogun in that sense. Uh, this does not mean that he has, repaid all Arteta's faith, but he has also shown that, like, for at least fans like me, right? Like, we always thought Eddie has, before this, like, couple of seasons ago, we thought, oh, he's a fox in the box. He would be like that guy who would be in the 6 yard box where he would convert all the chances. Everything would fall for him and he'll finish it. That was our thought. And then last season and this season, last season after Jesus' injury and this season, we are seeing him more like a Lacazette, a playmaker, a striker playmaker kind of player. And this game, he showed different variations, like especially after Sevilla game where I thought he did not play well in Sevilla.
True.
And
So go ahead, finish up your thought.
yeah, so yeah, that was my thought.
So here is where I'm feeling a little bad for Eddie, right? Eddie in his career has never had a constant run of games, and any player can go out of form at any time. You're expecting somebody who has never had a consistent run of games, who has the only thing that you can put against him is the fact that he's had backing by managers who who like basically are backing him without the stats to back him up,
Hmm.
right? That is the only argument against him by most people. But my argument is the exact same thing. He has not had a constant run of games. He's not had the stats to show you what he's capable of. For all the praise that Saka gets, initially he was played out of position as a left back. And you could see the glimpses of what he could do because he was kind of the shining light in an otherwise very mediocre team. But when Eddie is playing, he's playing in not a mediocre team anymore. He's playing in quite a star-studded lineup, and he has to kind of up his game to a great extent to match that. Now, granted, Eddie is not that player yet, but you can see if you don't see the potential that Eddie has, the strides that he has taken in the last 2.5 years to become the player that he is right now. I don't. I'm just gonna not argue that point anymore. It's like talking to a wall at that point. Like, you can keep swapping players all the time, but remember, getting another striker of Eddie's caliber is going to cost you at the very minimum 45 million
So that's where the
in today's
question is, right?
transfer.
Like for me, the question is, right? Like when we are talking about, say, his age, he's not too young. He's 24. He's not
Right.
too young, right? Like he is on the right age to become something bigger, right? This is where he needs to step up to become something bigger so that he hits his peak when he is 27, right? Like 2 years
Hmm.
down the line, he has to be, that's his peak as a striker, which means he has to start showing, like, if we consider all the great cycles, let's say Aguero, let's say Drogba, let's not even compare like Thierry Henry and stuff in this situation, right? But that is also part of the reason, right? Like number 14, he shouldn't have taken it. It puts a lot of pressure on him, is what my opinion was. He should have taken a different number, should have been a less pressure, he would have done better. But leave that aside, like Drogba or Aguero or Van Persie, all these people, they showed glimpses of their genius at this age, as in 24. Which, like for me, the problem is I don't know what kind of a striker Eddie is. Like when we are talking about, oh, Ivan Tony, we need, because we know what kind of a striker Ivan Tony is. Like I said, I can see Eddie as a fox in the box, like a Chicharito in that situation. And
Hmm.
then now I don't see him as that. Now I see him as a part of Lacazette, and I'm going like, oh, but we don't need a Lacazette here. So that's the problem. Like, what kind of a striker is Eddie?
I don't know the answer to that yet. Okay, let me give you some stats. The most Eddie has played in season was the last season. He played 1900, close to 1900 minutes, 1859 minutes, which equates to about 21 games.
Hmm.
Okay. So 21 games in, we played possibly 60 some odd games last season.
Hmm.
And Eddie only played 21 games worth of game time, not the starts.
Yeah, yeah.
Total season contribution is 21 games.
Hmm.
And all of that some of that could be like the here 10 or 15 minutes at the end to kill the game off. And that's the time when not everybody's trying to attack, you're trying to game manage to a great extent, right? So when you compare him with the Drogba or let's take a current more recent example, let's take Evan Ferguson. At
Mm-hmm.
18, you can see what kind of output he's giving, how he's trying to be built as this next great striker. But Evan Ferguson is getting a lot of game time, which Eddie did not have the luxury of. Evan Ferguson scored this game week. Before that, he scored, I think, against Newcastle like 6 or 7 weeks ago. So there was a considerable run of time where Ferguson one didn't play. He was injured for a bit there, and when he played, there was no output. So all big strikers are going to go through that phase. Nobody is going to be like the reason why Rooney's and the Henrys and the Alan Shearer stand apart is because they had a very high level of output. Not everybody else is in that echelon.
Yep.
And putting Eddie up there, apart from the number that he picked up, is really unfair to him, and it is also grossly miss expectations that you are having as a fan. I'm saying generally, right? And when you want to look at Eddie with what he is capable of doing, Fox in the box is pretty much what he's been known for. But
Yep.
he's never had the chance to do something else. The game against Chelsea, when he had like five Chelsea defenders around him and he tried to shoot, the whole world goes, "What are you doing there, Eddie?" You could try to do it, you could try to pass it to somebody else, but if you look at that play, he didn't really have enough time to scan, play a pass to the next nearest person because the guy who was free was on the left wing and he was behind Eddie. And the others around Eddie, he didn't have enough time to find them, to take his, to look up and find them. And so he goes for a shot. Now, we know Eddie, I think Eddie backs himself to take those shots, which is how, as a striker, you're going to evolve. If you're going to be scared and not confident enough to take those shots, I question why you're playing in the team to begin with. But I like the fact that strikers want to shoot. Pick the right shot. If you don't pick the right shot, at least pick the shot that goes on target. Like you can expect a goalkeeper mistake 1 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, like this game, second goal was a mistake from the goalkeeper, even though it was
Right,
a great shot. It
right.
was a, yeah.
Exactly. So all of this, all I'm trying to say after boiling the ocean with my monologue here, Eddie's got a lot of potential. He went from being a pure poacher to a guy who can play on the left wing, a guy who can play centrally, a guy who can link up with to play with. Now these are traits that he's kind of adding year after year, season after season. That is good to see, and you're going to see him record the most number of minutes that he's recorded in his career this season. And I kind of predicted at the start of the season that he's going to have at least 15 goals in the Premier League. I still think he's going to do that. And when you look at the total output across all tournaments, pretty sure Eddie's going to have a lot more than that. I look at him to have at least 25 to 28 goals and assists put together.
That's a
So
lot. That's a lot. That's a lot than like what Saka gave us last season.
yeah, true. But we were also not, we didn't go too far in too many games, right? Carabao Cup was a first round exit. FA Cup was a second round exit. So
Mhm.
there were a couple of tournaments where we didn't really realize the full potential. If we had gone a couple of rounds further, we could have probably seen a little more from Saka as well. And right now, Eddie has 5 goals and 1 assist, and he's appeared in 14 games. He's played about 800 minutes. And that is let me put it this way: his expected goals that he's trying to get, that has gone up. That is a good stat. I like to see. The next stat I want to see is how much of those he converts.
Mhm. Okay. So three goals, all great goals, and we've talked about Eddie a lot. Just a touch on three goals. Those were like great finishes. Especially the third one was like something that I never expected Eddie would be able to do, but it was a great goal.
That's true.
So the thing, okay, when we are talking about players that the manager backs, right? Like the next player, we have talked about him a lot, but I don't know. I feel the decisions made, especially Raya. Like we are talking about Raya, right? Like the decisions made. He is Arsenal's number one, but I am not comfortable at all about him. And that has been becoming more and more obvious with each passing game about what he is doing. Even in this game, in the first half, we were like Sheffield had nothing in this game. There was a moment where like the striker kind of tried to do something and the ball went near, not even to near Saliba, and he just gave up. He just went like, yeah, that is not something that I would be able to win. That's how much Sheffield were afraid of us. But even in this game, Raya didn't feel like comfortable.
It's Sheffield had zero shots on target, two shots on goal.
Yes,
So I don't think that Raya had a lot to do to begin with.
but he
Uh,
made the mistakes. That's my
yeah,
problem.
so I mean, yes, he did make mistakes. Here is the way I look at it, right? I'd rather you make mistakes in these kind of games than make mistakes in high pressure situations. You're
No,
never going to get, you're never going to.
my problem is that why is he like when Ramsdale was chopped and changed when he was not making this many mistakes? Why is Raya given like why is he not treated the same way? When Arteta says that oh every player has to fight, what has a player got to do to fight for his place when the other player isn't performing well?
I, mistakes and performing well are two different things. You could have a mistake in a game, you could still have a really good game. In
Not
my opinion,
goalkeepers, right? Like not goalkeepers.
I mean, I would
It
disagree.
costs a lot.
It does.
Mistakes in goalkeeping costs a lot.
It does, but when your team is able to bail you out, let's take an example of Saliba last year, right? Against Leicester, he had an own goal. Immediately, you saw the team rally around him. The fans rallied around him. They brought him up, and we eventually ended up winning the game, right? And it's the same thing across the board. Anybody can make a mistake anytime. With goalkeeper, that mistake probably stands out much bigger. We've seen that with Ramsdale quite a few times. The game against Southampton, the game against who was the other? I think it was Leeds. Where he passes straight to the opposition. So it's not like nobody is making mistakes. It's just how much you get absolved of those mistakes. And if you are able to, if your team is able to absolve you of those mistakes, that is a learning opportunity. When the player keeps making the same mistakes again and again, that's when you have to look for, okay, this is maybe not working out. What I am seeing in Raya are mistakes, but not the same kind of mistakes over and over. This, I boil it down to confidence. Confidence, a player, especially if somebody like a goalkeeper, confidence is something that changes around very quickly. Two, three really good saves, and suddenly you are invincible. Remember the David De Gea game against Arsenal where he stopped like 16 shots or something. That's exactly the kind of thing momentum does to you as a goalkeeper. And so, as long as we're not losing, I would 100% back everybody to get in form, playing games.
Okay, I mean, we have had this discussion a lot, so I'm going to let
Yes.
this go. Let's talk about like the players who got their chance in this game, right? Like apart from Eddie taking his chance, there were a couple of others who made a very good impression in this game. For me, I mean, I always liked Kivior because I feel like he has a high potential. He is
Mhm.
being, for me, he is being groomed as the person who's going to take over when Gabriel gets old. For me, Gabriel is still the best defender. Like, I mean, Taliba is something out of this world, but Gabriel is a very good defender. If I could put him, I would put him in the top three in this league. That's how good I feel Gabriel
Mhm.
is. So to fill that shoes up, Kiviat did an excellent job in this game. I think he had like 5 interceptions or something,
He
right?
did. He had a really good game. He should also probably have had a goal on the other side. Javier and Gabriel are probably are 2 years apart, and you're most likely seeing a 1A 1B. It's not going to be too late when you see probably Kivior and Gabriel start together. We've traditionally seen a left-footed centre back playing on the left side, a right-footed centre back playing on the right side. And I think this is going to probably be when Saliba deserves his rest, right? You're going to see both Gabriel and Kivior start together. And that's also going to be interesting to see. But you make an excellent point. Like, he looks like a guy who you build in a lab and bring it out, and you want it according to the
Exactly. Yeah.
specifications.
This is the specs. Make him and bring him out. Like they
Exactly.
gave the specs of Gabriel, and then was like, okay, build something like him, but in a little light fashion, and then the guy comes out.
It it's almost unbelievable that we're finding these almost gems in these really mid-tier clubs across the board, like Gabriel when he came to us from Lille, or Jakub from Spezia when he came to us. We're finding these like these Tomiyasu is another example. In these players when they come
And
to
then we
us,
have duds in the name of Ginduzi, Nuno Tavares, Sambi Lokonga.
it,
I'm not
it
I'm not
almost
I'm not
no,
trying to
no.
downplay it, but I'm just saying.
No, you're going to have a really like mixed results because you're really relying upon data in a
Mhm.
very broad sense, and your scouting is all based on that. Now, Moneyball works to a great extent, but it also has its flaws in certain ways, like the ones that you mentioned. Probably Guendouzi was pre-Moneyball, but Nuno and Sambi definitely were data-backed signings. They didn't pan out the way that we expected them to. But Jakub, he's started really well. I hope he continues that. We did see Nuno Tavares also have like a really good couple of games where he was flashy across the board, and the goal against Manchester United where he comes across in the back post
Yep.
and scores it, and then the stinker that he dropped against Liverpool in the Community Shield. No,
I don't want to
Carabao.
remember those things. I don't want to remember those things. I just want to
Yeah.
forget that we ever had a player called Nuno Tavares. Uh,
Yeah. And so, but anyways, what I'm trying to tell you is just continue to like we've seen the potential. Just continue to back him and make him into a really good player that he can definitely become.
Talking about potential, Smith Rowe is a player that everyone across Arsenal fan base wants to shine. But
Hmm.
even in the chance, like I think he is starting to change managers' mind because he has been getting a lot of minutes of late. He's moved up this ladder of who gets off the bench or who gets a chance when there is a way for someone to be substituted or
Hmm.
given rest. He has moved up. But this game, I felt even though did he get the assist for any of the goals?
Eddie's third goal.
Oh, that's not an assist. That's not an assist, but still, I felt he didn't have like a very impressive game in that sense. Uh,
So here is where I feel like I think I'll disagree with you there. If Emil Smith Rowe is an attacking midfield, and obviously you like to see anybody who has the term attacking in their position to have goals or assists. He did have an assist in this game, and like you said, it was more of a stat that Emil Smith Rowe got, but it was purely an Eddie masterclass of a goal. And MS Smith Rowe, whatever he did it really well. Wherever he had to track back, wherever he had to help Declan Rice out, wherever he had to play between the lines, try to play the wingers in, try to get the striker involved. Those were the things that he was really good at. And you could see as the game progressed, he kind of grew in confidence, and he was trying to kind of make those extravagant passes. And it all sometimes it paid off, sometimes it didn't. The one biggest bright spot for me was on the left side. We've had Martinelli, Havertz, and Zinchenko. Whenever they've started, it almost looked like they were reading from different pages of a book. Sometimes they were reading a different book entirely. But when Smith Rowe kind of came into the left center midfield role for a while there, you could see that even though he was there only for a short period, he orchestrated the back and the front very beautifully. There was a different left center back in Kivior as well. A different left back was Zinchenko, left winger Martinelli, and when Smith Rowe comes in, Smith Rowe is a new player for the other three, and everybody else is new for everybody. And You could see how well oiled they are, and that is kind of the thing that you want to see, and that is what I measure players by typically when I rewatch these games.
See, the problem for me is, right, like when you talk about these things, the problem for me is like right now, I know Jesus is not fit, but even if he is fit after this game, the next game, like the manager has the grip, like the player has put his name in this situation where like Jesus cannot get a start ahead of Eddie in the next game based on this
True.
performance. If
Yeah,
he is fit, doesn't matter if Jesus is fit, Eddie starts the next game because he has
100%.
scored a hat trick. And Smith Rowe hasn't given a performance like that in some time for him to replace any position. Especially you're talking about the left center mid position, the left number 8 position. That has been the position that we have been having problems. Like this team, every other positions we know who our strongest player is in that
Hmm.
position. But the left center 8 is the position where we don't know who that is. And Smith Rowe, this game or any game, he hasn't made that case for him to be that player.
I don't think you have to make a case to be. You don't have. Let me put it this way: you're not going to get an enough run. You're not going to get enough run of games to put forth a case to be the best in a position at this point, because the rest of the team became second for the 11 was mostly set for the most part of the season last year, and we came in second. So that means your 11, your starting 11 in terms of who the best players are in each position kind of writes itself. Now, Eddie, granted, he's had the good fortune of Jesus being injured for a large part of the season so far to kind of cement his place or displace Jesus, but the others have not had that.
No,
Now, left center
but
mid.
see, but the thing is like Vieira had that one game where the next game, it's not about like you becoming cementing that position for yourself. My problem is like you getting that chance to have that extended run of game. You have to put in a performance for you to be selected for the next game. Based on this performance, I'm not selecting Smith Rowe for the next game. Like with West Ham, yes, but not for the weekend PL game.
Let me give you a counter to that. Leo Trossard, how good of a season has he been having so far?
Yeah, he's had a pretty decent season.
Right? And he's statistically he's outperformed Martinelli when he's so far in the season. Leo Trossard. And does that mean he should start over Martinelli?
No, Martin Lee has a bigger, like it's like a jar of what do you call it? Like how much do we trust this player, or how much does this player has given to us? Like a couple of games, if Saka is not playing well, we're not gonna drop Saka, right? That is a different situation. The same way like Martinelli or Rice or Saliba.
So you're talking about, so in this team, I consider two players untouchable. One is Saliba, the other one is Saka. These players, they can drop
Oh,
one on
Rice,
10.
Rice.
Yeah, right now maybe definitely Rice too. You're right. Right now, those three players, they can drop 1 out of 10 performance for 3 or 5 games straight, and I still wouldn't drop them. Right. So the other positions, the way I look at it is every player on the team on the squad knows their roles. When you start, or if you start, you're expected to fulfill that role to the best possible extent you can. Today, Odegaard can start. Tomorrow, Smith Rowe can start in that same position. It doesn't matter who starts. I need that, whatever I need from you for that position for that game, period. End of story. There is no best player so far in that position. That discussion goes out the window. Apart from those untouchable players in the team, the other players, wherever they get swapped out, even if for example, if Saka or Rice or Saliba get a rest one of those games, the person who comes and replaces those players needs to put in the same level of performance that we're expected out of the incumbents.
I mean, fair point. That's what I want. Like all players to perform without it seamless. I mean, seamlessly is what I would want. Moving on to the goals,
Now,
though.
before we move on, the other side I feel like should also be addressed. Now, what happens when a player who is not an incumbent, so apart from Rice, Saka, or Saliba, when they have a stinker, how long of a run do you give them to either change that form or try to convince the manager that they should be starting over the other person.
For me,
That
it is based on like how much have you shown us that you can change this. Like for example, Martinelli gets a longer leash than say someone like I don't know, Havertz, for example.
But based on what? Havertz and Martinelli, they have very similar stats so far this season in terms of goals and
In this
assists.
season, yes, but we've known Martinelli perform for a longer time, right? Like
So has Raya in the last 2 seasons. Last season he was the running
he's
for
not
Golden Glove.
he's not in he has not performed in Arsenal. That's my thing, right? Like if you have performed, like new players needs to show me more. If because we have paid money to sign these players, right? Like we are
True.
bringing in these players despite having our own players. Now they are our players, but still like we are bringing in them mean that okay they bring something better or will bring something better than our players. That is the thing, right? Like
But
and
you
when
cannot take you cannot take whatever they've created in terms of statistics away from them. And you're talking about for example, take somebody like Raya. He's played in a Brentford in front behind a Brentford backline, which is not the best backline. They are they are a good backline, but not the best. And he's had some really good moments behind that backline. And
and
that's
that has what gotten you the move to Arsenal.
exactly. So
But
you
at
know
Arsenal, it'll get you to reach Arsenal. But at Arsenal, I'm not going to judge you based on what you performed at Brentford. I'm happy that you are here because of what you did at Brentford. But here you have to show me what you are going to do.
correct. Yes, but when
And
you're
if you're not showing it, I will question it right away.
it also then you're discounting the whole what is this guy capable of argument. When you based on a handful of performances say this guy is not good enough for Arsenal, then you're counting away or you're discounting the whole what is this guy capable of. What has this guy done so far? Why is he not able to do that in Arsenal? Why
Not
isn't that
that's
introspection not?
that that's not my job, right? I'm an Arsenal fan. I want Arsenal to be the best team. Like when we are singing, we are Arsenal FC, we are the best team in the world. We are believing that, and I want that to happen every game. And I have no like I have nothing in this thing about like developing players. I'm not in this club for developing players. I'm not in this club for realizing someone's potential. I'm at nothing at all. Like that could extend a little bit for someone like Smith Rowe or Saka who came through our academy. But for anyone who has come from outside, I don't care. Like same way the players didn't care. Like we have seen our share of Nasris, we have seen our share of Cleachies, we have seen our share of like Robin van Persie. They don't care. We have seen Giroud, who has who has dropped stinker after stinker. We took him for like years, and then he goes to Chelsea and he goes to AC Milan and he badmouths Arsenal. Right? If players are that ready, I am ready to do the same for Arsenal. So I don't care about players whether they are growing into their best version. I care about Arsenal being the best version of themselves.
And that is only possible by the players performing, right? So it's a chicken and egg conversation here.
I would be ready to swap out the players. If you are not performing, if we can let go of a magical Mesut Ozil like that, if we are ready to let go of Aubameyang who came into Arsenal in like such a fanfare, we are ready to let go of Raya if he's not performing.
They are very different
Yeah, I
circumstances
know,
where
but
we let go.
I'm just saying that that's what Arsenal is. Like for me, it has to be ruthless. Like what did Man City do? When Sane was at the top of his game, he was like, okay, you don't fit my style, get out. That should be what Arsenal should be.
I feel it was more to do. It had more to do with Sane not wanting to renew.
Yeah, but still, but they were ready for it, right? Like they were ready. Like what did Liverpool do when Mane was ready to move on? They were ready to move on. That's a big club mentality, and I want Arsenal to be that big club.
Fair. And again, Sane and Mane examples are two vastly different examples. One at the twilight of his career, one refusing to sign an extension. And those cases would happen at
It's
Arsenal
not
too.
it's
And
not it's not an apples to apples comparison. I'm just saying like the
definitely.
ruthlessness should be there, and it's always club first.
it's ruthlessness is one thing, your hand being forced is another.
Where is the hand being forced? Your player is not performing well.
Your
Change.
player
You have a
wants to
player.
leave, refusing to sign a contract, like in the case of Balogun, right? He wanted game time. You couldn't give him game time, which means 2 years from now, when his contract expires, he's not going to be willing to renew. So your hand is kind of being forced.
No, we could have given him game time and be like, okay, let's see.
No,
I'll give
on the
you a game time.
consistent game time he wants.
We could have done it, but we didn't want to because we felt like this player isn't worth it. Like how difficult it would be to give a player a game time. Like we gave players game
Based
time
on based on what
based on
he's
nothing. That's the exact same thing what I'm
right,
saying. That
right.
it's based on nothing. So we didn't want to give game time because it's not gonna benefit Arsenal Football Club.
So, and if we just assume Balogun becomes overnight Messi or Ronaldo, then it's definitely a huge missed opportunity, right? Like we could.
We would be feeling like how we felt for Nabri, but that's not the end of the club. Like what
In,
we felt for Nabri was like, yeah, it was a great loss, but that's not the end of the club. We are
it's
somewhere much
definitely
better. We are
it's
much
definitely
somewhere
not.
much better than having that player at that point of time.
It's
Like yes,
definitely not. We lucked out into finding somebody like Saka to avenge the Gnabry shadow. But if not, if you look at somebody like Manchester United right now, the winger spot, they would literally kill to have somebody like Saka on one leg, for example.
yeah,
Uh,
fuck off,
right?
United. I don't care about those. Uh,
That's my only long story short, that's my only downside to this whole if the player is not performing, he can leave mentality,
He's
which
not
is
gonna leave.
yeah, I
I'm
mean
just saying, like you can play if Ramsdale could play, if we can convince Ramsdale to play in the cup games, and we could convince Raya to play in the cup games to get back his place.
it's not about convincing somebody to play where.
I
It's
mean,
it's it's
ask
it's
him to
about
play there. That's it. Like it's
it's a
simple
it's
thing.
about it's about this. Like when you take or when you swap out a poorly performing Raya for Ramsdale, and when Ramsdale comes in and makes mistakes or doesn't defend his near post very well, then you go back to Raya again.
Yes.
But what we have done in that process is we've probably killed whatever remaining confidence that Raya have had in the first place after all those performances. And now you have him again. You try to bring
This
him back.
this is this is PL. We are fighting for the title in a PL. This is the highest level in English football, and it is for the players. They know what this level is. That if you are not performing your best every week, we are not here to give you another chance. This
You're
is like
discount you're discounting the human element of this. There is a
no.
reason why man management is a very key concept in all of this.
Yes, it is, but I'm just saying like that's where it is. Like then what happened to Ramsdale now? His now if Raya is not performing, we bring in Ramsdale. His confidence shot already. It's gone. It's nothing.
Oh,
Like he's not even allowed to play anything.
No, that's not true.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
starting the cup games. I'm sure
We'll
he's going to
see.
start more cup games. And I think he'll probably get the last league game of the Champions League qualification stages. So I get your point, right? If you have to be ruthless if you want to
If
be
you
a
are ready
successful
to
club.
if you are ready to shot Ramsdale's confidence down, you should be ready to shoot Raya's confidence down. That's what I'm saying. It has to be consistent across the board. But anyways, that's a longer discussion. We've been having this
Yes,
back and forth. Let's come back to the game a little bit about the second goal or the fourth goal, which is a penalty. Was it a
right.
penalty? Yes.
Oh yeah, 100% all
Why
day.
did it take so long for them to decide that though?
I think they were debating whether it was on the line or or inside the box or outside the box. I think that's what took time.
But the
Uh,
player was inside the box.
yes, it was clear as day. The player was inside the box. That was penalty 10 times out of 10. The referee who did not give that as a penalty real time, I have no idea what he was looking at. It was one of those silly fouls that we used to concede like 5 years ago at the
Mustafi
Rebels.
Mustafi came into my mind's eye at the moment that happened.
Yeah, no, he do that and blame the goalkeeper for it.
But
That's exactly.
but the thing is, like, I was surprised that Eddie had the ball. If he'd have
Uh-huh.
taken that ball and scored 4 goals, that was done only twice in Arsenal's history. You know who those two are?
4 goals.
Scored by a single
Uh,
player.
Theo Walcott?
No.
No.
Andre Arshavin and Thierry Henry.
Arshavin, yes, Liverpool.
Yes.
Which goal? Which game did Thierry Henry score? 4 goals.
Thierry Henry, I don't remember which one, but he was the first one to score 4 goals. Of course, he did. And then Andre Arshavin doing the. Yeah, it would have been history if Eddie would have
Yes,
done that. But
true.
it's also like the other question was like I felt good about it. I don't know how you felt. Like they didn't give that go like penalty to Havertz just to boost it again. Like I think that would have made it a little bit like, oh, every time there is a inconsequential goal, penalty will give it to you. So
So
I
that's
felt.
where I think the team's also seeing what Havertz's worth is, right? The last couple of games where Havertz has come off the bench and been that outlet and link up guy, not just on the ground but aerially as well. You could
Mhm,
see the whole team kind of realizing Havertz's confidence has gone up too. He should have had a goal in this game, like in the dying
mhm.
moments.
Yeah.
It's a shame that he didn't convert that. But again, these are things that are gonna come. Like the more Havertz plays with the backing that he's having now, the more he's gonna shine. That
Mm.
goal is coming.
But Tomiyasu's first goal, I just love Tommy. He is one of my, you remember Nacho Montreal. That's the vibe that
Yes.
Tommy gives me. You could put him on the pitch any time of the day. No one's gonna complain anything about him. He'll give you that
And
natural 7 on 10 game all the time, wherever you put him. No complaints, tidy professional. Wonderful first
he
goal.
work ethic is second to none. He runs up and down the pitch like he's got a motor that never stops. I that is unbelievable. And you literally earn for players like that, and you want to see somebody like that across the 11. But to have him, you just know that when he comes in, it's as good as done. You're done. We're putting the clamps on you. It's over.
Yeah. So yeah, that would be the discussion for this game. I think we have talked enough about this game. So if you are still
Oh,
listening.
El Neni's first assist of the season. Many more to come. I think this is going to be his last season, and hopefully El Neni FC also joins in as the backroom staff that Airport Albert may potentially be leaving a void with. I'd like to see that happen.
I mean, I have bigger dreams, but yes, that would be good too. But okay, so for those of you who are still listening, please do, comment in your thoughts on the whole Ramsdale Raya debate that we've had. Um, Before we continue, Arvind, like the Ballon d'Or just got announced. Congratulations to Messi on the eighth.
I don't understand how
I mean, World
Emi
Cup.
Martinez was ranked above Bukayo Saka in the whole thing.
Oh! Did you see Emi Martinez's goal conceding? Oh, we'll talk about that in the in the next session anyway. But anyways, congratulations to Messi. So we'll continue with our discussion on the PL games for this week. Um, let's start with Crystal Palace Tottenham. Tottenham
Okay,
seems to not lose. It pains me to see them top of the league.
me too. It definitely does. But they played a really good game. The first goal, it was kind of after the first half that Palace had, it almost felt like it almost felt it was sort of, oh shit, this was you concede like this
Yeah.
almost. And but the second goal, man, Tottenham just carved them open like a Thanksgiving turkey. That's how bad Palace was. And it almost like every game I see one Tottenham goal at least that is just one touch passing. The defense does not know what is happening, and ball ends up in the back of the net. And I hate to say that it's what it is, but it is what it is, and it's that just sucks. Like Tottenham had 3 shots on target and 2 of them were goals. There, converting at an exceptional rate at the moment. So, but kudos where it is due. I just hope that when the tough run of fixtures begin, which actually comes in the next 5 games, they're playing Chelsea, Villa, City, West Ham in the next 5 games. So that's quite a tough run of fixtures. So it's I hope something changes in that time.
Me too. Chelsea Brentford was interesting, to say the least. I mean, Arsene Wenger kind of put it out very smoothly. He said like Chelsea doesn't seem to be a team that has no idea what they're doing on the pitch.
I mean, so some stats that just blew my mind. Chelsea, Brentford have more wins at Stamford Bridge this year than Chelsea do. Brentford have not lost at Stamford Bridge since they were promoted recently. And these stats kind of blow my mind. So I'm thinking in my mind, what does Chelsea have to do to win a game at home?
Oh, they
Uh,
shouldn't have.
I mean, it's true, but you almost feel sad for them at a point. Like Angry Rantman is probably gonna pop a brain cell at this point. Sure. You saw first half Chelsea and second half Chelsea. They're almost like they were two different teams that were playing. First half Chelsea creating so many chances they can't score to save their lives. Second half Chelsea, like they didn't even show up after the second half.
Oh,
That's what it felt like. Uh, and I don't know, like this was something that I brought up in the Water London game week review as well, and that this point continues to baffle me over and over. Chelsea have had so many strikers since Drogba left,
yep.
multiple $50+ million signings for the striker position. And still, they can't score a goal to save their lives. And it continues to be like this. Experienced strikers came in, you at least can bank on their experience for the fact that, okay, maybe if not now, someday they'll give you a goal, try to give you a win and possibly a trophy somewhere, like the Havertz goal for the Champions League. But now with a young team and a young strike force, how much of a confidence boost or confidence hit is it going to be every single game that this kind of thing happens?
Mhm. Next game is like Bournemouth Burnley. I mean, Burnley is going down,
For sure.
100%.
And Vincent Company is also probably going to be fired sometime in this season. That team looks like they want to play a certain style, but they don't have the players to do it.
Not
They've
just
got,
that, they should be pragmatic. They are in the Premier
yes,
League. This is their first season. They should know that this is not going to be like a high flying season for them. They need to survive to do something better next season, but they don't seem to be in that mindset at all.
true, yeah. And the one win that they had against Luton Town, there was a comeback victory. It's like they should almost beat the rest of the five other teams in the last two-thirds of last third of the table to in order to even have any hope of surviving next season. But the way they're playing, I don't see how that's coming.
The next game is Wolves Newcastle. I mean, what is up with Newcastle? Suddenly they score 8 goals and then come back and like draw with Wolves. Then they play another game where they dominate PSG, and then they play another game where they are absolute bullshit. What is this Newcastle team? I
If
cannot
you
make a head or tails of this team.
You actually have to combine both Newcastle and Brighton in the same equation here. Both of them played 10, won 5, lost 3, drawn 2. The only difference is the goal is in the goal difference part of it. That is because of Brighton's probably flamboyant style of play where they're kind of exposed in the back when they're chasing
But
games.
there is a big difference, right? Like Newcastle spent so much money to bring in so many players. Brighton
Oh,
is mostly like they brought in players who are next to nobodies. I mean, sorry to say that, but most of them are
true.
next to nobodies when they came into this team.
True, 100%, yes. And for Newcastle, it almost is like they're this point may be true for both Newcastle and Brighton. They almost regret having that European pressure on them. They've played 3 games in Europe. They've probably had pretty decent results there, but that exhaustion is catching up in there. That fatigue is catching up on the weekends, and you can see that. So it's a little difficult to be at Newcastle at this point, and they also have had some injuries that they're dealing with. Their $70 million midfield signing is not going to be there for 10 months. So you have some things where they are hamstrung by that as well. So maybe if Isaac comes back or Joe Willock comes back, maybe their fortune changes a little bit. But now they're not able to rotate heavily. They're relying on some key players over and over, and that fatigue is adding up.
Since we were talking about Brighton, the Brighton Fulham game was 1-1 draw again. I felt like Fulham is kind of coming to their own last game. Like if they would have won, it would have been great with Spurs. But they are kind of, I think they're going to finish in the top 10, Fulham.
Maybe Villano kept Fulham in the game completely.
Yeah.
Leno had some unbelievable saves this game.
This whole
Uh,
season, he has been amazing.
Oh yeah, 100%. And the last two or three games, maybe not so much like the game against Chelsea, the game against Tottenham. They lost 2-0, both of them. Maybe he could have done a little bit more
But
in
those are
those games.
games they are expected to lose. Like Chelsea and Tottenham are games Fulham's expected to lose.
True, yeah, and you didn't think Fulham was going to come back against Brighton to get a point, especially away from home. And Brighton, to their credit, tried doing a lot of things, but Leno, man, he kept them out. And then there was this 90th minute goal line clearance from Anthony Robinson. That was a good one too. You probably you're right. You're probably right that after the first 6 or 7 spots, you're going to see somebody like Fulham try to sneak their way in and you're gonna have a casualty like Chelsea fall out of the top 10.
I mean,
We,
there is another name that could be a casualty, but we'll talk about that in a bit. Uh,
okay, yeah.
uh,
For what it's worth, for all of the great starts that Fulham have had, they've only had one win in the last 5 games. They should be racking up a lot more wins in order to, continue to have that conversation about top 10.
hmm. The game West Ham versus Everton. It was surprise because West Ham, for me, should have conceded more. Everton played much better football than West Ham did. I was watching that game because we were going to play them midweek, right? So I was watching their game, and their defense is absolute shit. Like any ball over their defense is a free ball for anyone to run into.
They don't have the pace, but they play such a high line. Like that's accustomed to David Moyes teams like you. Whenever he has them lined up to defend, you kind of see West Ham trying to sneak a goal on the counter. But when West Ham try to go on the attack, when they try to match up against the other team attacking wise, that's when you see everything go to shit. And West Ham is another team. The last 5 games, they only have one win. They have 3 losses and a draw in the Premier League. That's not ideal when you have had such a great start. They were what topping the table earlier
Yep,
this season at
yep.
some point, and
Mhm.
now they're barely clinging on to the top 10, clinging on in the top 10.
I mean, talking about Everton, a lot of us predicted that they might be dropping out of Premier League this season, but seems like it's going to be the opposite. They are actually playing pretty decent.
See, the first 5 games, Everton had 1 point. In the
Yep.
last since second 5 games, they managed 3 wins and now they sit at 10 points. They've sort of turned it around. I want to say, but there are rumors floating around that Everton may be hit with a points deduction. So your wish list of most wish lists that had Everton getting relegated may still come true.
Okay. The other game we were planning to talk about this Aston Villa versus Luton. I mean, it's a straight win. Emery is doing what Emery does best, which is racking up points, all that. But the best situation for me was when Luton scored that one goal. It was a complete shambolic goalkeeping mistake from our very own Emiliano Martinez.
I
So fun
mean,
to see.
calling that Luton scoring the goal is very, it's very cheeky. But yes, it was such a horrible goal to concede. I don't think you could have given any bigger of a cushion than what Ezri Konsa gave for Emiliano Martinez. But to mess that up on such a huge scale, uh, they had 3 goals, so it was probably immaterial at that point. But any other team, that thing was coming back to bite them really fast.
Mhm. Okay,
Uh,
Liverpool
but
versus Nottingham. Sorry, yeah, you wanted to add
yeah,
something?
but Villa does seem to be like a team that are playing really well. And
We know Emery though.
Yeah,
phenomenal.
second season Emery is what I've always had a problem with. The second season probably starts right after Boxing Day, that remains to be seen what second season Emery looks like then.
Okay, Liverpool versus Nottingham Forest. Pretty straightforward game. Liverpool, I mean, it was expected. 3-0. I mean, there's nothing more to add to that, except that was that a actually he it was a very bad mistake again from our why are our
Uh,
goalkeepers so bad? But
I almost feel like Matt Turner had Salah in his FPL and wanted to give him a goal. That's
what
probably
he was so outside the box. Why was he going out with his hands and missing it
oh,
completely?
at that point, Turner was just trying to do everything to distract Salah, I guess. If he got a hand to it, that probably was a straight red.
Yeah,
I think he deliberately did not play the ball with his hand. But that was like a brain freeze moment that Turner had. Unbelievable.
but the best game of the week for me was Man United getting dismantled by City. I mean, City were in their second year for most of the game. I mean, Haaland and Foden didn't play that well. I mean, Haaland played better. Like Foden only woke up in the second half of the game for me. But still, like, what a big miss United are.
So here is what I don't understand, right? Why is Lindelof starting at right left back first?
Who else have they got?
They have Reguilon, who they signed on an emergency loan earlier this season. They benched Varane for Johnny Evans. Now,
Is
Johnny
it
Evans was
benched or is he still back from injury?
no, he's back. He was on the bench. I think, Varane started last game, if I remember correctly,
Uh-huh.
when United played Copenhagen. I want to say, yes, he started against Copenhagen. So Varane was fit to play, but he didn't play. And Ten Hag said it was tactics. I call bullshit. Uh, and you have that, and then Amrabat, who started at left back for a couple of games, now comes into the midfield along with Scott McTominay. And another thing where I don't understand, you pay to get somebody like Mason Mount for 60 million, and then he's starting in your bench. Not that Mason Mount is a world beater, but I don't know. Apart from that shot on target that McTominay had in the first few minutes, he was a passenger for most of the game.
I mean, you see the City midfield and you match that up with the midfield that United put through.
Exactly.
It was like so bad.
City's midfield comprised of Alvarez, Silva, and Rodri.
Yep.
United's midfield was Eriksen, Amrabat, and McTominay. That if this game ending 3-0, United should probably build a statue for Onana right outside the stadium right after the game. Like, he produced some amazing saves that kept this game from going to double digits.
Yep. But when Jeremy Doku came in and what's his name? Anthony was in his face. I'm like, what the fuck? Shut up and sit down. You have nothing to talk in this game. Like I saw a meme about like Anthony where he was going for Doku and like bro mistook Doku for his girlfriend was the meme about.
I mean, I don't want to laugh about that. It's probably really
No, it's
uh,
we
but
know where that joke is, right?
yeah,
It's not
I agree. I agree. I mean, I do see the funny side of it, but here is my verdict on Anthony, right?
he's
Be-
shit.
Between
That's my
Sa-
verdict.
between Sancho and Anthony, both of them are leaving United before no, but both of them are not getting an extension. They're both
Mhm.
leaving United after the initial contract expires. I see Sancho going on to make a bigger impact, and Anthony is probably going to vanish off of the footballing world. You're probably going to see him in some Danish fourth tier league after this, and that's only because he played for Ajax and he probably has contacts there. Um, I don't know what that guy does. He doesn't have the pace. All he does is try to cut in, try to shoot with his left foot, try to bend it across. It works like 1 out of 25 times, and and that 25 time that one time it works. Oh my God, Anthony's a world beater. Anthony's back. This is what Anthony does. This is what 100 million gets you. But the 24 other times, he is absolute shit.
I agree to that, and I'm happy that he's at United, and I'm happy that United are going through this. But yes, that is our take on this week's PL games. Please do comment in your take, and quick touch on the West Ham game that we are about to have. Two questions: is it going to be a
Mhm.
lot of rotation?
I do expect that. Cup game, we want to see a lot more rotation. We want to see players who typically don't get
Mhm.
chances. And I have a new co-host or
Yes,
co-panelist for the
yes.
remainder of this pod. We're definitely going to see some changes. I'm interested to see how that works as well. I'd like to see the likes of Reece Nelson,
Yes.
probably El Neni get a start and perform and hopefully gets a goal before Enzo Fernandez does. That'll be great.
Okay, so prediction for that game.
West Ham away at West Ham. So the clean sheet writes itself away games. I would say 2-0 to the Arsenal, but I'm being
Okay.
conservative.
Okay. There you go. That is our prediction. That is our take on this week's Premier League game and this week's Premier League in itself. So thank you, Arvind. Thank you for joining in.
Elijah
Bye to
Floyd.
your co-panelists too. So
She's,
see you after the next victory where Arsenal wins
sounds
10-0
good.
to West Ham. Bye.
Come on, you guys.